All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are just about ready to get started on some D&D session prep. All right. So today's session prep is going to be a little bit interesting. It's for the Paladin partner. We're going to be going live with a session in under 2 hours, it looks like, or just about. So I don't have a lot of time to prep the next map for the crew to explore. That's what I'm going to be focusing on here. I've got a blank map set up here in Incarnate. I know that I'm going to be doing a map that is Jurgle's Ash Heap, at least one of the ash heaps within the Jurgle realm, the spiritual realm that the party finds themselves in after failing to kill a god. Meanwhile, we have some interesting things that we have to do here. So if we take a look at the foundry, we see that there's these like statues and such that are in position. These two are glowing red. These four are glowing green because they've been resolved or in some way or another. This one right about here is a situation where Augustius is touching his own statue to begin the ceremony, the process of confronting one of his fears or worst memories or regrets or something like that. And over here we have a similar sort of situation happening or going to happen for Fizz. So this is going to be a kobold-focused area. Now, my thought process here is that when it comes to making the map, we're actually going to be able to resolve both of the kobolds' issues in one map. Maybe not in one session. We'll see about that one. But it will become clear that they are intertwined in a funny way, or in a peculiar way. Now, I don't always recommend this kind of thing. Not that I'm necessarily in the business of recommending how you do things when it comes to like D&D dungeoneering, dungeon master story writing. But I am coming into this with the thought process that I am going to link these two stories together. And maybe also link them to some of the other party members, even if there doesn't exist an easy way for me to do so. So I am going to be crowbarring it in if it doesn't quite fit. Under normal circumstances, I think that probably would be frowned upon behavior. But in this particular case, like the end result is that the party will feel more unified and understanding of each other. I think Augustius and Fizz, as they are both kobolds, already kind of feel connected. But there was a recent event that, even if it be it minor, definitely made Augustius feel a little bit estranged from all of the party, including Fizz. So I think this would be a good opportunity for them to kind of get back together and refocus the party into one particular location. So that's sort of where I'm at right now with that. That being said, we do need to actually assess what the stories are and then figure out how to link them. And what the stories are things that Balethal, the player who plays as Fizz, and Alexander, the player who plays as Augustius, have sent me their own depictions or understandings of what their the time that they killed somebody or their actions resulted in the death of somebody in an accidental and regretful way. One that they would not have, that keeps them up at night, maybe at certain nights. Depending on how long ago it was, who knows how traumatic it might have been for the person and how regretful they are. Something that would be a harrowing experience to re-experience and also to set in front of the party members as well. It's not just you re-experiencing it, because that's what the Jurgle realm is doing. So far this has been pitched to the players as a bit of a test of their character. It's been interesting to see what they've done with that, and we'll see how that one goes on. But right about now, Balethal has given me his notes, and his story is... I'm not going to read his notes verbatim. A, some of them are kind of long. B, he gave me his notes in private, so I'm not going to necessarily talk about all that stuff. There was probably, I don't know if he thought I'd be reading them out loud on stream or whatever. I don't think he would particularly care, but I'm not going to. I think the idea is that he sent them to me, not necessarily in confidence, but I'm not going to start leaking the effect. These aren't DMs; they're in a message thread in our Discord server, but might as well be DMs, as we're the only two people in there. So private messages is an appropriate way to describe them. But Fizz has not directly killed somebody in a way that he regrets. Or maybe he's not directly killed anybody, any human or any sentient creature, I guess you could say, humanoid, inspirited creature, one might say, because that's a little bit more descriptive, more wide than humanoid. And then we'll say that he's, Balethos says that he's likely caused deaths due to some inaction or due to some cowardice or something like that. And that might even be like a part of his core character is that he wants to be known as not cowardly, but he is a little cowardly. And trying to deal with that, grapple with that. So the idea behind his character's regret is that they snuck out of a warren in the middle of the night, and it was Fizz-Fizz's idea or main role in convincing this other kobold to do so. And some kind of action happened. It could be hostile humanoids, monstrous creatures, prowlers looking for some kind of food, predators looking for some kind of food. And either way, the bottom line is that his friend's death is on his hands because Fizz-Fizz escaped, but his friend did not, something like that. And then we have a note that the friend's name should be something like Zeet, just like Fizz-Fizz. Zeet is a pretty funny name. I don't know if that will undercut the somberness of the scene. Maybe Zit is also pretty funny. I was thinking maybe I could try to preserve it. Maybe we just do ZZ instead, so drop the T. It's ZZ, something like that. That might be a good one. Because it was I wasn't saying like this. It must be the name. It's something suitably familiar. We'll see if we can make that work. I don't usually. I just go with whatever the players give me. I don't like to have final authorial decision on every single thing. However. I'm just kind of thinking about like, will the party of players, not the party of characters that I have for this group, be able to deal with Zeet? I don't know if that's true. I don't know if they would be able to. So as of right now, based on that, maybe I would construct a nether realm, sort of a spiritual realm version of some kind of, what would you describe it as? Like a butte or something, right? Like a desert waste or something like that, where they go out at night and it's cool. It's almost even colder than one might expect the desert to be, and they've only ever heard tales of the surface world being scorching, and then having that be an experience or whatever, and then have a ink blot-ified version of that to match the quill of death, the quill of judgment, maybe that Jurgle typically had used to carry spirits over to the different realm. Everything is made of ink. It's sort of an impossibly liquid ink that continuously drips from every surface. That's sort of the vibe of Jurgle's realm. Very surreal. And so a version of that would be in the cards. Let's see if we can possibly unify that for the Ash Heap area, which is going to be a little bit more physical than the players are used to. And I think this will be an interesting... this will be an interesting choice. Because of something that they did in the last session, where they didn't learn from the mistake that somebody made back then in a way that rectified it. The agency wasn't quite there, and so history was changed is the quote that was thrown out there, which is kind of interesting. Whether it's actual time travel, so to speak, or not, it's sort of accounting for there was no catharsis for those souls, and so what happens as a result of that? That's the real history that was changed, is that because those souls never got catharsis, now they will continue to wander the earth, so to speak. But the souls that are given catharsis are supposed to give over some sort of point of gratitude towards the party member that did that, and without that, there's definitely going to be some problems with regards to that. But we also got a chance to take a look at Mithridates' patron, who is the character that was in the last one. All right, let's take a look here. So Alexander had given me notes, much more detailed notes, I must say. Sometimes that can be a problem for trying to fit things in. So let's see. So we'll say that soon after, Augustius becomes a fully fledged monk. Alexander throws out the term justiciar, for the official rank. And soon after that, he ventures out. So it looks like the elf monk that he traveled to Sestan with, which is a character I can go ahead and pull the name from because it's in here. Let's see, elves maybe. Oh no, there'll be NPC neutrals. Livarin Aine. Yeah, so that's a pretty easy one. Livarin. Okay. First mission ended rather cleanly. Second time he ventured out, it was at the behest of villagers. Plagued by brigands. Brigands are smited, smote. Okay, so it looks like there's a kidnapping from the brigand leader that was actually like star-crossed lovers territory. But the woman who was kidnapped was actually trying to escape from under the thumb of the headman of like a town or something, and there was this fit of rage almost or desperate attempt to stay alive where Augustius was taken by surprise by the daughter of this headman that had been kidnapped but actually was willingly going, and he was just trying to fend her off, but he accidentally killed her, is what I'm reading here. Okay, all right. I'm reading a little bit more of the details. Basically, his elf compatriot steps in to help, and okay, and then oh yeah, let's see. The other idea here that was thrown in towards the end was instead of the elf defending him, Augustius may have defended himself at the last second and like just bludgeoned this guy past death into like a pulp basically with his morning star. So very grim, grisly scene, but it was like a loss of control, total loss of control that Augustius would never have felt right about, as like it's a desecration of a corpse, and it's even of somebody who did evil, and it's also like he killed someone who he had not intended to kill and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things there. That one is supposedly at like a cottage, it looks like. Let's see. Let me read a little bit more details about the place where it is, because we can be surrealist with the allocation, but it's a little cottage. That's pretty nondescript. It could be on like plains. It could be in a not a forest necessarily, but on an outskirts of a woodland or something, in a prairie, or in a. There's so many different places that it could be. So we can be pretty freeform with that. So what we know right about now, and I'm going to go ahead and leave some notes in the description of this map. I don't typically do this, but it's pretty good for, like, normally I leave these notes in like a notepad document. It's a little bit easier on the eyes. We'll say that fusing a desert, I wanted to say waste, but that feels like a little bit too bland. Badland region at night, with a woodland cottage at day. We'll say that cottage area left, desert area right. That's because of, if you guys remember, what I was describing earlier is that the statue of Augustius is going to be over here, and the statue for Fizz is over here. So that's left and right. There's a little bit of... I could also flip them if I wanted to do some kind of inversion thing. And maybe I still will when I'm still just doing the planning phase right now. And then we'll have about an hour or so to make the map, and then 30 minutes to populate the encounter, grab some tokens that we need to make tokens of, like art to make tokens out of, for like the bandit leader. Yeah, that's like another thing we should probably do here is like what are our main NPCs or whatever. So like we'll say NPCs, bandit, brigand leader. and Brigand excuse me. And again, Brigand Leader and Star-Crossed Lover. We'll say I guess we'll say we have a bunch of like brigands in general, so I don't think we need to add any more of those. Maybe some like more skeletons would be helpful in general, so we'll leave some of that. On the side of the, so that would be on the for the cottage area, which is where we're going first, actually. So we're actually going to go ahead and cycle these through like so, and we're going to say areas. And then we'll say NPCs, Brigand Leader and Star-Crossed Lover, or the NPCs on the side of Fizz's area. We're going to say Z, and I have to decide what killed ZZ. And what, and like, just how grim it might have been. Like, on the one level, you could imagine the more cliched version of this, which doesn't necessarily, it's not a value judgment on it. It's just like, this is the most default version that came to my mind when it was described to me by Balathal. And that is that, like, they're scrambling for the back door. They're scrambling for the, for home. And, like, only Fizz can make it out, and, like, at the last second, ZZ is, like, stuck, pinned, and asking for help, and then like then we've got a freeze moment where he doesn't fight, he doesn't flight, he just freezes, right? So that would be where Fizz like fails to be like even risk going back up there, right? And that would give like the most agency for some kind of salvation moment or recompense, which would be like, I'm gonna reach forward and grab you and try to help, and even if I fail, it's still more than I did before. Because like we can't alter history in that way, but the concept of the like trying and even though you fail, like knowing that you did better, that you have grown as a character since this happened to you, that's sort of what we're underscoring in a lot of this. So that's where we're at right there. ZZ and I was thinking maybe some kind of really large like eagle or something could be some bird of prey that would be native to the desert, would be one thing considering they're so small. But there was a point where like for the longest time Fizz is called Shoulder, the Kenku big bird, and hasn't really shown a concern about birds. So that would feel a little bit weird maybe if it was actually some kind of bird like that. We could have it be hyenas. Those are common in the desert. Even in D&D deserts, they're pretty common. In Ascendosaur, we've got gnolls that patrol the wastes. Gnoll packs. I don't think they've met a gnoll in the Paladin partner, so there wouldn't be any like worrisome about, oh, that's a plot hole that like this character was out of character when they didn't react to the gnoll or whatever. They didn't quite have anything like that. Let's see. Yeah, I feel like it could be gnolls. I'm thinking of something that can grab ZZ and then run really fast with him or fly. That's why I was thinking of birds at first. And the reason why I was thinking about stuff like that was because the failure to do anything, even though there was a clear amount of time where he could have done something because he was frozen with fear, and then watching ZZ disappear into the horizon or whatever, or maybe just hearing him disappear, that was kind of the first thought that I had. Whether or not this is like at the entrance to the Warren is the only thing that I think I should really think about. Is like if ZZ is like pinned at the entrance to the Warren, which is the cliche thought that I had, then like Fizz just turns around and goes back, right? But if it's more like they go for shelter, like they're too far out exploring when they get found and chased, and they try to run back for shelter, and the creature is satisfied. That's why I think it shouldn't be a humanoid, because the humanoid would just stand there probably and like wait if they wanted another bit. But if they were satisfied because it's like just a monster that wanted to eat, then you would probably have something like that happen, right? I think so anyway. That checks out for me. So yeah, I feel like that would be an interesting situation. I'm also thinking about how we might end up merging the encounters a little bit, because the transition of like, oh, we're in a cottage area and then there's a desert area is going to be interesting. And since we know we're doing cottage first because that's where Augustius has chosen to go, we could theoretically give it the option to the players, but I think we're just going to start in the cottage area. We'll see an opportunity for Fizz to like kind of bear witness to maybe some really odd audio visual cues about the NPCs, the Brigand Leader and the Star-Crossed Lover, when they show up there. It'll be like the Star-Crossed Lover says things in a decidedly like that remind him of ZZ, and the Brigand Leader will make noises that remind him of whatever monster killed ZZ, and then the two of them will actually transform into that, and the scene will sort of begin to what would you say? The scene will take shape around them like that. So for that reason, I think I'm going to try to mostly mirror the construction of whatever like structure that they end up going in for the cottage area, maybe some of the surrounding areas, mirror it in that way towards the desert area, where like instead of it being not a natural formation, the idea would be that there's like caves or whatever, or a small cavern, like rocks, like the inside of a mountain pass or something like that, where you go inside indoors and there's like rocks all around you and stuff. So it'd be populated with different furniture, but it would be roughly the same shape, and that would be like the way to have that going out. So I don't think that like I'm trying to remember D&D Wendigo. I want a little bit of information on where the Wendigos, like what their natural habitats are. It says mountains in there. Let's see, is there an environment area? It doesn't really tell me where they might be found, at least on this homebrew page. Well, there is an SRD here for thanks. Let's see. I can't immediately see anything, so I guess this is where I go for Wendigo. I have to refresh the page because it's been open for so long. Oh wow, no Wendigo. That's pretty wild. Okay, so I guess the Wendigo isn't actually... Interesting. So I guess we would be building our own stat block for this. For some reason, I thought they were like a default monster. So if it's from this kind of environment where it's not about like a biome per se, that's even more uncanny, because then the Wendigo has this ability to mimic the voice of a creature that it's eaten. Or sort of like the, if anybody's seen Annihilation, there's a bear monster thing that he screams or cries the last words of the woman that it ate. And so that's like one example. Yeah, I think that could be kind of interesting. We'll see, like, and Wendigo need stat block. And you know, if the scene shows that like ZZ is like essentially gone already, because ZZ is the one that would be in this example for the transformation process, the Star-Crossed Lover would have been smote, and then they would be attacking the Brigand Leader, and there'd probably be something that would be discordant with memory, which would be like the other brigands arriving or whatever as like almost ads in the middle of the fight. Maybe, I don't know, like probably not in the middle of the fight, as the fight begins, and that would be a bit of combat there. But we're not going to go super combat heavy here, honestly. I think the question really is, we'll think about like the encounter design of this and stuff a little bit later on, but that's a separate question. So we know what we're doing now. We know which NPCs we need. I'm going to go ahead and copy paste this into my document off to the side, just so that I have it there, but I'll save the notes there so that it's on the stream. And let's get started with the ash heap stuff. So I'm going to be looking for a couple of textures here. I see that there's like a cool stone texture that I can probably just desaturate. And that definitely looks like a bit of ash. We're going to set the texture scale to 50 as per usual. And we're going to say maybe 120 on that. And the opacity can be pretty light. And I'm going to start marking... it's actually pretty bright. So I guess our opacity can go down a little bit. This is probably more of like it's kind of like a base tile, I guess you could say. Obviously, technically the base tile is the obsidian tile that we've got in the bottom there. But we're also going to be doing a lot of texture work later on to shine through the darkness a little bit more, because it is supposed to be a little bit on the dark side. That's how I've set the opacity so low for this very bright tile. I have a couple of pockets that are a little bit brighter. I'm thinking that, like, again, we're going to be, something like this area, and then this area will be kind of mirrored in that way, and then this area and this area will be a little bit more like, this is probably arrival for where the players arrive to, and then they walk up to the cottage, and then players transform into the cave, and they walk up to the cave exit, which is where they'll be able to go back to from whence they came, to the spiritual nexus that they're starting this session in. Now, again, I don't actually have expectations for how long the session might go for the for that sort of thing, but we might be able to finish all of this in one session. We'll see. The 6 players, even if we go for 4 hours, it's going to be, which is usually what we do, it is going to be a little bit difficult sometimes. Oh, we've got a dust texture. That's interesting. Let's crank the opacity on this one. Again, we're kind of looking for stuff that does make things feel a little bit ashier. So, seems good. Hard to tell entirely in some cases because of the lack of like color that we have right now, which is partially intentional, but I think we can go ahead and put some of the, like, this terrain over here can definitely be part of the more organic areas. I remember using this, or something that looks a lot like this. This does invoke an older Jurgle map that I made, so I actually quite like that. And then, is there a way that we could do... Ooh, I kind of like the idea of water waves, because again, it's supposed to be like inky. Maybe we could like play around with those at some point later. In this case, we got this. Usually we do have color in the Jurgle areas, so I'm not really worried about, like, I'm not like putting a ban on color or anything. But it's definitely going to be a bit interesting. Actually, you know what? I think we are going to desaturate this a little bit, and by that I mean halfway. And then maybe drop the brightness to, like, just a little bit there. I know it's already dark grass, but I think this adds a little bit of something. And again, we're doing like a cottage scene up here. We can do stuff like that. And all of this terrain that we've put down is adding a little bit of stuff. It's like when you're painting on a canvas, you get a little bit of whatever you put down as the base color. Even if you put a lot of stuff on it. Eventually, mathematically, you do end up erasing stuff, but I think overall that's pretty neat. I'm fine to use this particular grass, but we are going to obviously have to set the saturation to, like... I guess we could do this, but the saturation to 50, but this has to be like 50 on the brightness. And then, of course, our scale needs to go down, as it does with all of the textures in Incarnate. And we'll go ahead and... I'm still not satisfied with that. Let's try 25 brightness. Yeah. That's a little bit better. Let's try 33. Okay, I think that's fine. That's good contrast. It wasn't actually the stone themselves, the little whitish, beige now stones that I was too upset by, actually. I was mostly upset by the range of color on the grass. Seemed very wrong there. Go ahead and repaint with this just a little bit. have it be overtaking some of the edges here. All right. We're going to do some wood. Wood. It can be a pretty simple one. This is like one of the base ones, I think. Okay. I don't know why it does that. 50. We do the rotation at like 45 maybe, and then go ahead and drop saturation to 50 and maybe the darkness to 50, and that's fine here. And for this, we'll go ahead and use the block out tool like this. I'm going to go ahead and say it'll be something like this here. That should be good. Oh, our opacity should be 100 because we can add more ash like details afterwards, but that is what I'm thinking there. We'll probably have a door like here, and then maybe an exit here or something, and then you can wrap around and do stuff. Maybe a window here you can break into. It is like there's not actually a lot of room, so maybe we should add a little bit more. Do something like that, because it's going to be kind of cramped quarters, and these are this is a level 3 party. They have access to some crowd control. I don't want to make it too easy on them. All right, so I think that's all the wood that we need for that. Is there anything else that we need for the base layer of tiles? I can't think of anything super important. Obviously, we can start doing the desert stuff a bit later on, but let's go to objects now, and we're going to go ahead and find some trees. Corrupted tree. Beware, this tree has become corrupted. For our purposes, it'll probably be all right. I think maybe an opacity of 80 on all of this stuff is probably going to help us sell the inkiness, and then again, the darkness level can go down quite a bit. Maybe only 66. Yeah. Okay, so let's show grid. After all this, we still don't have a shortcut for showing grid, huh? Toggle snap to grid, but that's it. No grid. Yeah. I would really like I'd really like a toggle for that. That would be nice. All right, so oh, and we can auto select off for this one. We are doing random, right? Yeah, we are. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of block off a lot of the corners. For spacing purposes, I do enjoy doing that. And it's going to be pretty nondescript, you know what I mean? Like, it won't... I don't think it'll arouse too much suspicion that we're walling off the extremity over here. Because this will just feel like, you know, oh, hidden by a crowded thicket or whatever. And then maybe over here we'll have, like, some... like a cliff or, like, a hill that, you know, there's no easy way to climb up or whatever. If one of the players tries to like climb through the trees, which a lot of them do sometimes try to do, or like at least one of them does try to do, I am going to have to come up with something that clever that will keep them in place because this is technically out of bounds. This is one of the cases where, like, as I was starting to assemble this, I was thinking maybe this would actually be a little bit better if we had this as like a separate map, you know what I mean? But we don't exactly have all the time in the world to prep this, so we're going to keep it as is. This also does help me scale down the amount of work for the map itself. You know, I'm basically making 2 maps, but only 50% of them. You know what I mean? Go ahead and add a couple more trees up here that will kind of obscure a little bit with a couple of other details. Like I said, there's going to be like some hills and stuff. Let's hop grid off real quick. Okay. So far, I like where we're going. Again, we're only on 80% opacity for this, and I think that's a pretty good decision, actually. Our hue saturation stuff will be... they will be taken care of, carried over here, I believe. Oh, no, maybe not. Let's see. Color. No. Let's do 66 on the brightness and 50 on saturation. It actually has more color than I thought it would be. Than I thought it would have, rather. We're only going to have a couple of those kind of intermixed here. I think it's fine to leave a couple of pathways, like, implied. We'll do a little bit of like dirt work later for textures and stuff to imply as such. I don't really like that there. One there. Couple there is fine. One down there. You know, like pathways in here make sense. Let's go ahead and do a couple of these some more. I'm going to go ahead and put that up. Okay. Okay. I think that should be fine. Let's go ahead and find some walls. This one we will also have be a 100, but not really any reason to make this too involved or different, but I am looking around for anything that I like the general look of. It wouldn't be a two-door, but it would be something like that. Is this going to be enough for it? Maybe. We can't use curved walls like this, but that's not really that big of a deal. It's because we've changed the width and stuff. So. Oh, let's go ahead and, like I mentioned, set the opacity up here to 100. I guess we can also try to muck with the color a little bit. We'll save that for a moment because we want to go ahead and make sure that we have the right setup here. I'm going to do walls at first, and then I'll replace stuff with doors. That's pretty common. Particularly since like some of this isn't going to line up exactly right about now. We're not doing the Mona Lisa or anything, so I don't need to worry too much about this, but... Okay. So I think, like, door will be here. And here. And there'll be windows here. That's the vibe I'm going for right now. Can't do diagonal hold. Yeah, it just does whatever the last input was. Which makes sense. Not a feature I would expect to have access to. Alright. This is where we get into like weird tricky territory. I guess we can go ahead and select all of these and move it over. And then we'll find a tiny little stopgap. Right? And then we're going to delete this and turn it into a door anyway, so let's just take a look at the grid real quick. And I think we kind of BS this one just a little bit. Just maybe. Yeah, if it's a little overlap like that, that one doesn't matter too much. And I'm just going to short that one down a little bit. And we should be good. Good enough. So we have to do door. Grab a wooden door. This is fine. Go ahead into the transform and say, let's go ahead and set our layer to 1. -1, I guess. We're going to say, like the other transform we did, or, yeah. This is going to be height, it looks like, to be the same match, and the size. 66 for both saturation and brightness. And then I'm going to go ahead and auto-select. We can mirror this in this way so that it swings out like that. And then I mentioned, my alarm to feed my dog. No memento there. Uno momento, dog. I'll get you, I promise. Okay, I'm gonna just place this down here. Yeah, we don't want to go too out of pocket on the transforms, actually, so... Because the line should mostly match that, so I guess we'll try the slightly longer version. And then maybe we can just kind of transform the... something like this. That matches a little bit more. Okay. That above that, and ta-da. Okay. This should be fine. We're going to go ahead and set our brush size down a little bit lower and just kind of finish filling in our wood, like so. Okay, that we're going a little bit out of bounds here. We're not trying to be super precise right about now. And then I'll just go ahead and clean up the outsides in a moment. But I do have to go feed my dog, like I mentioned. So I will go ahead and take care of that, and I will return momentarily. I appreciate that Shambler realized he wasn't allowed in here. Okay. All right, what else do we got in here? We need like a furnace, or I guess a fireplace, actually. Oh, I guess they should actually be like that. It's hard to pick a spot where it makes sense to have a window there. But that's fine. Okay. Cool. I think we've got a pretty good spot there for a lot of things. Obviously, we need like a table. That's a little bit too... Yeah, that's like a pirate ship table or something. I don't know what that was. Yeah, let's just grab this guy here. I'm going to keep doing our color changes. Match here. Oh yeah, I forgot to keep my music going. I hit a button that's like add to queue on YouTube. It just didn't do anything. Oh. I don't really see, guys. Sorry. I don't know what happened there. Isn't there one that's like overturned or something? I guess that's probably good enough. Uh, okay, so that seems like a fine spot there. I guess we'll go for a bed. A brigand seems like the type that would use a stool as a bedside table if they needed to. Right. We're gonna go ahead and grab a different door model for inside. Like so. Okay. It's a bit of an oddball area, but I think that's fine. Go ahead and grab a rug. Okay, I think it's fine. So, what are we missing right about now? Probably like a dresser or something, right? Dresser. We can go ahead and grab a small one for out here. Probably away from the fireplace, though. Maybe right about here. Kind of close to the door. Grab some shelves. Something like this is always a commonplace aspect. Probably like a bucket or something, yeah. I just need some buckets that are actually, like, fully closed or whatever. I guess that would be barrel. Would be a more likely one. Just kind of some nondescript supplies or whatever. Okay. So this part seems fine. We are getting dangerously close to when I need to be ready for session, so we might be a bit more in trouble. Might have to limit our scope of today's session to this area, and then imply the other one over time. I'm just relayering that area a little bit, sort of like how it was layered in the first place. Okay. I don't think I missed anything too obvious here. Obviously, it would be nice to have a little bit more visual variety, but that's not what matters. Matters more to have like an actual level, so I think we'll go ahead and call that one there. We just need like a hill of some kind. I guess cliff is what I'll search for. Yeah. We'll probably also say like maybe 90 opacity. Couple of settings here. Okay. All right, we've got our half a map so far. Go ahead and tweak some of these areas here. Add a couple more trees in the way. Look not in this direction. Okay. Okay, cool. Let's say save. We got about a little out of over a half an hour to prep the encounter itself, so we can add a little bit more depth to it as a result of that. But yeah, this is a pretty easy thing for me to like grab all of this, copy it, paste it into here, and then, you know, change up some of the environment objects and whatnot. And then obviously have like an exit over here for them next time. So we can go ahead and export this to like so. I think that's fine. I don't know why it does this. Really, it should be good. Okay. Steens. Turtles Realm. I still can't believe I have to regularly save things as WebP. Yeah, thanks. Editing. Close. Cool. Background image is going to be under worlds. Oh, see. I do really wish you could customize things like the amount of fog, because this is always too much fog for my liking. Oh, that's a neat idea. See if the players catch up on that. Check that one out. So what we do here now is we go ahead and grab some tokens like so. We grab this, and this, these 6, and then we're going to go ahead and pop into the ash heap. Paste. I'm going to move these guys over ever so slightly, so that they're a little bit closer together. And now we got to go ahead and start setting up some walls real quick. We'll probably do global illumination for this one. I'm actually going to say this one is normal, even though it's a window, and that's so that I can always change it later if party moves those curtains. But for right about now, they are indeed closed. So this back door is going to be open with a base, sort of, I guess, heavy wood. This one will be unlocked with heavy, or a basic one, and this is going to be locked with heavy wood. I'm gonna leave the... I usually end up leaving all this stuff, like, open, to be honest, in case somebody wants to, like, jump up on it. This stuff that's actually, like, head height or whatever, I'm gonna go ahead and seal off, but... if they want to jump on the bed or whatever, I'm not gonna block them from doing that. Okay. Alright, so now we're gonna go ahead and lay our actual wall. We don't really need to heavily follow our outline since it's likely to change, and it's really only going to be visible from one direction anyway, which is over here. We're going to have like an intermediary separator that basically never the twain shall meet, right? So that is what it's all about. Okay. And then we go ahead and grab our terrain wall option. And we're going to go ahead and start doing a little bit of tree work. This is way more effort than you would normally see people doing, probably, for trees. But I think it ends up adding up to a nice... nice little change. And then honestly, you can do like what I'm doing now, which is a little bit cheesy, but you can do this sort of angle where you're copying and pasting segments and kind of just reappropriating where they go. It makes each individual tree seem like it holds something a little bit different. Even if, in fact, it's actually like copy-pasted behind it, right? Some of these trees are like weirdly shaped or whatever, but that's fine. Like layer them in each other, and then it's a whole different ball game. I don't think you can rotate the walls, though. No. Doesn't seem like it anyway. I always end up doing something a little bit different than I did it last time, and this is no exception. We don't need all of this extra attention to detail, but I think it'll add something. We have the harsh cutoff of the wall behind it, so even if there's any gaps or whatever, it's not really a big deal. Now, these do block pathability, so if somebody wants in on a tree or whatever, I am going to need to baby them through it, more or less, but that's alright. That's not really that big of a deal. We're probably going to just have the trees over here be, like, surprisingly inky. And that's why you can't make it through, can't climb them. Okay. I think that's probably enough for this section. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time over here to make sure each individual tree gets its treatment, because that makes sense to me. When you're not doing it en masse, it's a little bit easier. Although when it's a border like this, I usually don't care as much. Kind of just tracing the vague outline of the object as I know it to be. So I'm imagining that a satisfying session conclusion here will go towards probably towards something along... Jesus. I guess it's struggling on the uptick there for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, satisfying session conclusion here will probably be leaning towards like we'll get to the end point of the overall setup of this part of the session, of this section of the map, and we'll have like a moment for Fizz to really start letting it soak in that he's actually going to go up to his section next, and that they're kind of in the same area. All right, no volume easing, no constrained by walls, and we are going to go ahead and point to ambient. Yeah, and it is 150. We're also going to do a second one, and this is going to be woodland ambience. We're going to do a low pass filter. And let's go ahead and check this. It's barely playing like any audio. I wonder why. Yeah, for some reason the low pass filter variant just doesn't work. Oh, this is actually kind of a neat idea, the muffled effect. I might be able to use that later. All right, I found a different file that seems to have like a higher bass volume, so this is actually working on it. So we have our audio in that way. I'll go ahead and turn off the preview. Wait, actually, is that even what I did? Yeah. Okay. All right. Sounds good here. Okay, we just have to clear the fog of war. It seems like the ambient, the generic light or whatever is indeed on. So it looks like we're all good there. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and grab a couple of homies. We're going to say... take a look here. I don't think I have anything too good here, but... like a Nobles, I know. Oh, looks like I do have that section here. Okay. That will say neutral. Call it captive. And then yeah, I don't think we have any like artwork that I haven't already shown necessarily. But I mean, finding like one quick token isn't gonna kill me. Let's do D&D Bandit Leader. And we'll see what we come up with on images. This ain't too bad, probably. Only trouble is, like, we're looking for something that's probably a little bit more... let's see what we got. Because I'm thinking, like... That's a little too barbarian-y. Ideally, I'd like one that actually has, like, a close-up of a face or something. Looks a bit AI. Just a bit, by the way. Actually, yeah, something like this might work. I guess I can save it as... I probably don't need to edit it in Photoshop, come to think of it. Let's do Bandit Leader. And then we'll say... full advantage. Token Bandit Leader. All right, and then we're gonna say, oh, we already have the Wendigo one open. Let's just search it over here, Wendigo. See what we can find. Actually, this one I do want to cut a little bit out if I'm going to do that. Make sure I leave the watermark in. All right, something like this will work. Portrait Wendigo. I'm going to save this as a PNG to match everything else. Not that it really matters. Okay. Portrait Bandit Leader, Ego. Actually, I can't remember how I'm even doing that anymore. If I go to Customs, Tokens... I think of the last ones that I did. Okay, yeah. I think it makes more sense to do like Wendigo Portrait. Bandit Leader Token. Portrait, and then... Wendigo Token. Alright, so Bandit Leader we can put in the Bandit section, and Wendigo we can put in the Monsters. Oh, I guess beasts is fine. Okay. So let's pop over to bandit. I'm gonna say crossblade is fine, and we're just gonna duplicate this one. We're gonna say bandit leader. And we're gonna pop open the token. Bandit leader token. Bandit leader portrait. Okay. Short sword and dagger. I mean, this is probably fine. I'll pump his HP up a little bit, but not really the end of the world. I could give him a shield. I guess that would make some sense. Nope. And we'll say instead of... I mean, he can keep his dagger or whatever, but that's probably... Honestly, that's probably fine. He's not supposed to be like a combat challenge, per se. The role-playing around it is what matters the most. Okay, so now we can grab Bandit Leader, put him in here, and have him in front of the door, you know? Say, Bandit. Yeah, I guess probably just Bandit is fine. It doesn't have to be particular. Okay. What would be the easiest thing? I guess I could probably take the werewolf stat block and turn it into a Wendigo easily enough. I know that technically we're not really worried too much about the... Now we can come into here, close this. Let's pop in here and say custom tokens, beasts. Are we on portrait? Yeah, we are. Okay. Get rid of the shape changer. Whatever. I don't really think these are that important, but we can get rid of the spear. Oh yeah, I should rename it to Wendigo. Okay. That gives me something to work with there. Let's go ahead and hovered by owner, the HP. Just for the sake of, like, dealing with that, we'll quickly throw a dagger into this lady's pocket. That's fine. Okay. We also want to go ahead and drop some extra... some other bandits. And maybe a couple of wolves. Just hide these for now. But we'll probably have them off to the side. And then we definitely want some bandits. I guess I have more in here, don't I? Okay, I feel like that should be enough here. We'll go ahead and change this up. All right. Okay, so I have about 10 minutes before. I'm going to do a little bit of like offline prep real quick before we start our actual session. So we've done our mapping. We've got what we've got. I'll think about ways to keep them like not quite in the know, you know? I've got a couple of ideas on what I'm going to do here, but we're just going to go ahead and keep things going. All right. GG's. We'll be back in pretty soon, I guess, like 10, 20 minutes. We'll see how many people are on time and ready, but I guess I can take a quick look at that. No, we only have 2 homies in here. I can't believe it. Wow. That's impressive. Ah, 3 Crow will be a few minutes late. Big surprise. Yeah, all right. Looks like we'll be mostly on time. I'm going to go prep for that, and I will see you guys later. Peace.